Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hanyu Chinese podcast, your go-to for learning Mandarin and exploring Chinese culture. I'm Santi, and as always, I'm here with our beloved Meihan. 你怎么样？这个星期你好吗？
我很好，谢谢你呢。大家呢？大家好，Hi everyone. So
Yes. So how have you been this week?
啊
你的身体好吗？
啊，有点不好，but 没关系啊，没关系。I
有点不好。你感冒了吗？感冒了。
caught cold，对我感冒了。
You need to be careful with that. Yes, they're very common these days. What we will
Yeah.
learn this week on this episode, Melanie?
Okay, so today we're diving into some incredibly useful phrases like how to politely ask for help in Chinese with 请问, may I ask? And how to say how with 怎么. And we will explore the fascinating world of Chinese characters.
I love that you said how to say in Chinese how. Yes, that was very cool. 怎么说怎么? Yes. How do you say Chinese how? Yes. So that's what we will learn, how to say how, which is a very interesting question word. And yeah, we will learn because when we start learning Chinese, maybe characters is something that we're scared of. Like our Chinese language has lots of characters. So how do we learn how to write properly? How do I do this? Because not something that we never do, learn characters. So today we will see some tips that will learn help us to learn properly these characters, these sinograms. Very good. So we start today, and we will learn lots of things. Actually, today is a very useful episode this week. So we'll learn how to say how and other things. For example, let's start with these two words. What do we have here, Melanie?
请问，请 means please, 问 to ask. 请问 may I ask?
Very good. So how do you use this? In which circumstances? We use
For
请问.
example, yeah, we can ask somebody, 请问这个字怎么写? Excuse me, may I ask how to write this character?
So we use 请问 just to stop someone. When you want to ask somebody something, you just start with 请问, which literally means please ask. So may I ask? Very good.
Yes.
Now let's go with that sentence that you said that is very interesting. And today we will actually analyze that very sentence, and we will analyze it word by word. How do you pronounce it again?
请问这个字怎么写?
Very good. Excuse me, how do you write this character? So we will learn this word by word. 请问, we already know what it is, which is please, may I ask? May I ask? But then we will go with 这个字, what does it mean 这个字, and 怎么写, what does it mean 怎么 and 写. Probably you already know 写 means to write. Okay, let's go further. We'll talk about this one, 这 and 那. What does it mean, this 这 and 那? Meihan.
这 this you point something close to you, nearby you. 那 that you point something far away from you.
Very good. So this and that. Very good. But normally we use this as a pronoun along with some nouns. So we use this something something or that something something. And this is when it gets interesting in Chinese, because when we add a noun after this 这 and 那, we need to use something that doesn't exist in English, which is a measure word. And this may be a little bit tricky for learners. What is a measure word? How do you use a measure word, Melanie?
Yeah, so we use a measure word before a noun. So between a number and a noun. So a number plus measure word plus a noun.
Very good. So we will use measure word, which is a word that just classifies words between a number and a noun, or between these pronouns like 这 and 那 and a noun. For example, here we have, if you're watching us live in LinkedIn or Twitch or YouTube, you will see on screen this sentence. Can you please read, Melanie?
Yes. 这个人, 这个人, this man.
Very good. So here, 个 we don't translate it, but it's necessary grammatically, and also it says that what will follow will be a person normally. Although this 个 is like it's good for everything. It's the go-to measure word. If we don't remember what for is the measure word, we can always use 个. But very good. We have this 个 that has a grammatical function, and we'll put it between 这 and the noun, in this case, 人. Very good. 这个人, in that case, means this person. How do we say that person, Melanie?
So we replace 这 with 那. So 那个人, that person.
Very good. And we can use any other word afterwards. It doesn't need to be 人. For example, you want to say this friend will be 这个朋友, or for example, that apple. How do we say that apple, Melanie?
那个苹果.
Very good. That apple. 那个苹果. So you can always, practice at home. You will see, however, and we will see this in a further episode, that for specific words, we have a specific measure words. So 个 it's good for everything. But if we talk about books, there's a specific measure word for books. And if we talk about surfaces or flat things, we have a specific word for those things. Things that can be held with hand have also specific measure word, etc., etc., etc. But if you want to learn just one, this is the measure word. Go. Very good. Okay. Now we have this noun. How do we say character or Chinese character in Chinese, Melanie?
Yes. So we say character, 字, and the Chinese character, 汉字.
Very good. So 字, 汉字. Perfect. So if we want to say this character, how do we say it, Melanie?
这个字 or 这个汉字.
Great. So now we know. Yes. We have a comment in in YouTube. It's true. Learning Chinese and English. If you're a Spanish person, yes, that will be very difficult. We have a comment in Spanish. Yes. But Nacho, you can learn Chinese in English and then you can learn two languages at the same time. That's actually a very good option. If you want to learn English and Chinese, why not? You can try.
Have a try.
Yes. Perfect. So you have 这个字 and 那个字. Perfect. Now, this is what we have seen. 这个字 and 那个字. So now we can understand better this question. 请问这个字怎么写? Can we analyze this, Melanie? 请问这个字怎么写?
So let's break them down. So 请问, please, 问 to ask. So 请问, excuse me, may I ask? 这个字, this character, 怎么写? How to write.
Very good. So we know everything except for this how that you just mentioned now. How. You say it's 怎么. Very good. We will go later on. 怎么. But we can see it now. 怎么 is how we say how in Chinese. So if we see it goes before a verb. In this case, it's 写. So 这个字, this character, how it's written. 这个字怎么写? This character, how it's written. Very good. Now we will go for the answer. And to answer this, we will see a new word, which is actually very, very useful. It's sorry. How do we say sorry in Chinese?
对不起，对不起。
Oh, good. But does it have a literal meaning? Or not really?
Literal meaning. Just I'm sorry.
Very good. It's actually very, very difficult. I think I learned the literal meaning like ages ago, just out of curiosity, and I forgot about it. It is like don't let it come up, something like that. Like just don't. It's like don't mention it, kind of thing. Don't mention it in a way. Don't mention it. But I'm not sure. So if you know about the literal meaning about this word, duìbuqǐ, please leave us a comment and instruct us, because not even Chinese people know. Which is, it's very
No.
common, like in Spanish when they ask us, this is a common thing, they ask you, what is the literal meaning of this? And we never think about it because there's sometimes with this
You're
that we
right.
say so often, and we just never, yeah.
You're right.
So yeah, it always happens. So if you know, please leave us a comment. 对不起, though, it means sorry. We will not go further in this, but if someone says 对不起 to you, you need to say 没关系, 没关系. Huh? We said 谢谢. If someone says 谢谢, you need to say 不客气. But if someone says 对不起, which is sorry, we need to answer by saying 没关系. Is that right, Melanie?
Perfect. So don't answer 没关系 to
Very
对不
good.
起.
Perfect. Now, we have these, which is the answer. 对不起. How do you say this sentence?
对不起，这个字我不会写. I'm sorry. This character, I cannot write it.
Very good. So 这个字我不会写. Very good. We already know 这个字 is this character. 我不会写. I don't know if people know about this 会. 会 means to be able to, but it's because we have learned this thing. This is a very difficult translation. Is to can. But there's many can in Chinese. We have 会. We have 能, and we have 可以. So this 会 is things that we can learn. 能 is things that we are able to do, and 可以 are the things that we are allowed to do. So this is the first one. 会 is can because we learn to do it. Like we learn to write, we learn to swim, we learn to speak Chinese. So we can say 我会说汉语 or 我会写汉字. I can write characters. So 对不起, I'm sorry, 这个字 this character 我不会写 I can't write because I haven't learned. Is that right? Yeah?
Perfect. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks. You're very encouraging. Now, very good. So we have learned all these words today and all these sentences. What we want to highlight, however, is this 怎么 that we saw in a sentence before. This 怎么 means how, and as you can see, goes in the very same place as the answer. So 这个字怎么写? We say 这个字我不会写. I can't write. That's how we answer. Very good. Now, let's go further, and we want to ask a question for our audience. If you're listening to us, we want to ask you this question. How do you say, how do I go to Beijing? How do I go to Beijing? If you know how to write this or how to say this, please write it down in our comments. I said again, how do I go to Beijing? And what do they need to use, Melanie, to write this? Just
Yeah,
a little hint.
Yeah, so everyone, you can use what we've learned today, like 怎么, how, and the vocabulary from previous episodes. Write your answer in the comments. You're very welcome.
Very good. And if you're enjoying our podcast, just remember that you can always like and subscribe so you don't miss any. But you will have us every week on Mondays, normally. Very good. What we will see now is we will explore a little bit of the Chinese characters and the history, because yes, Chinese is very, very ancient, and we can see this in the first characters that we have available, which are these jiaguwen. Jiaguwen. What is this jiaguwen, Melanie?
Wow. So 甲骨文, or we can call them oracle bone script. So these were symbols are carved into animal bones and the turtle shell thousands of years ago in China. And people used them to ask questions to the gods, like about the weather or harvest.
That's very interesting. And these characters that are so ancient, we're talking about thousands of years ago, have we still use them. Actually, when you learn Chinese, for example, you learn these pictograms that are exactly the same or very, very similar to those jiaguan. For example, you will learn about sun, how to write sun, and it's like this, 日, which is very similar to a sun. That's why we call them pictograms. Or a tree. How do we say tree in Chinese, Melanie?
木
Mu. Very good. And also it's very similar. The character of Mu, the pictogram of Mu, is very, very similar to a tree with the branches.
Yes, it is.
Very interesting. So that,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that when we learn Chinese, it will always look like the characters, like the visual representation of what we want to say. But sometimes they do, and it makes sense because it has evolved from the ancient Jiagu one. Very good. So it's very interesting to see the history behind the characters, because that makes them more memorable. If we just look at the characters and we don't see what is behind, that it's a bit more boring. Something that we have seen in Chinese is that in some places they write Chinese in different ways, more complicated and less complicated. How is that? Why this happens?
That's a good point, Sandy. So that's because we have two types of Chinese characters. One is what we call 简体字, so simplified characters, and 繁体字, traditional characters. So here we got some traditional characters.
Very good. If you want Taiwanese movies or Hong Kongese movies, you will see that the characters are more complicated. They use traditional writing. For example, this is my movie recommendation, Taipei Story, which in Chinese is something like qǐngwèn chuma. I love this because the Chinese title is Green Plums and a Bamboo Horse, but in English it's just Taipei Story. But yes, if you watch Taiwanese movies or Hong Kongese movies, just be aware that they use these fan what Melanie was explaining, this traditional writing. Why is that they write in a different way, Melanie?
Good question. Because simplified characters are used in mainland China and were introduced in the year 1950s and 60s to make reading and writing easier for people. So, for example, we got some example characters like a 马, horse. So it's the simplified version here. And the second 马, obviously it's more complex. So it's a traditional form. You can see they are quite different, but they can still have some similarities, right? Yeah, and the 国, the first, the one on the top is simplified, and the one on the bottom is traditional.
Very good. And so if you're watching us, if you're hearing us, you can see the characters. But the idea is that the simplified characters, they look more simple. The traditional they look more complicated. They have more strokes. And it's because, with the revolution, they tried to simplify the characters so they will be more easy to be learned. It will be easier to be learned. These didn't happen in Taiwan and Hong Kong because they were not part of this process. And so they got stuck with their traditional writing. And this is why in Taiwan, they speak Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, but they write in Fantizi, traditional characters. But in Hong Kong, they don't even speak Mandarin, they speak Cantonese. And they also write in traditional characters. So we have mainland China, they write simplified and they speak Mandarin. Taiwan, they speak Mandarin, but they write traditional characters. And Hong Kong, they write traditional characters and they don't speak Mandarin, they speak Cantonese. That sounds confusing, but it makes sense when we know the history a little bit. So be
You know very
careful.
well.
If we travel abroad and you go to Taiwan because you want to learn Chinese, be careful because you will not see the characters as you used to. It's not super complicated as in it makes sense when you go there because it's a natural evolution. So it's just there's not that they're more complicated. It's just simplified Chinese is a simplified version of those characters, and that makes it easier. Now, let's see some tips to learn characters. So if we want to learn Chinese, which tips can help you? What can help us? So it's important to know that characters are made of radicals, or in Chinese, 部首, which are like the building blocks for the Chinese characters. Each character has at least one radical, and it often gives a clue about what is the meaning or the pronunciation. So you will see sometimes that the radicals and the right have something to do with the pronunciation, and the radicals and the left of a character have something to do with the meaning, but not always. This is not always what happens. For example, let's see one example. Melanie, what is this?
Yeah, so for example, we can see here we got the radical, we call it 3 water drops. So appears in characters always related to water, like 河, river, or 海, sea.
Very good. So what you're saying is that the characters that have something to do with water, like rivers and seas, and other ones, they may contain this radical at the beginning, these drops, 3 drops which represent water. That's very interesting. We have another example. Is this one, Melanie? What is this?
Oh, 口, look, it looks like our big mouth. So 口 is always related to the movement of mouth, or related to speaking. So for example, 吃, to eat, 喝, to drink.
Very good. But you mentioned in this very interesting movement of mouth. It can be speaking or any other thing, any movement, like eating or drinking. Here we put my favorite example, which is eating and drinking, which is what I like. I also love talking, which doesn't have co, but yes, sure, it doesn't have. But yeah, very interesting. So just be aware, the radical that goes on the left, it may add some, at least you can, if you identify it, you will know what is the meaning, a little bit of the meaning. The ones on the right have something to do with the pronunciation. Okay, very good. Let's see some more tips. One of these ones says break them into components. So when we see a character, it's important to break them into components. And we have this example. Melanie, what do we have here?
We have the character 好, which is composed by 女, which means woman, and 子, which means son or child.
Very good. So to have a woman and a child is something good. Yes. So yeah, Chinese know about happiness. Yes. So good is made of woman and child, something good. So how it's made of those characters. Those 2 characters make this big character. That's a very good example. We have another tip, which is use mnemonics. For example, this one, 休, which means rest. What is this character made of, Melanie?
So look at here, we got a person leaning against a tree. So 休 to rest.
Very good. So I don't know if that is the origin of the character, but if this helps you to remember the character, use it. Every tip or trick that you can find that will help you to learn a character, that's called mnemonics, just use it. Like this show, if you can visualize a person that is leaning against a tree, mu, which we saw before, just use that. That's a very good trick. Perfect. Now, just as a little bit of an extra, this is a character that has more radicals. We said that radicals, pusho, are the components of a character. This one, actually, I don't know how many radicals are. Yeah, 48. 48?
Yes, yeah, the most complex Chinese character. 答
Very good. If you want to, I guess, do Chinese teachers in China just punish students by make them write characters? Because I suppose that if a teacher said you need to write 100 times da, I mean, I would die. 48 strokes and just every da. That sounds like
we really do it. Yeah,
do
trust
it.
me. If you even you're a native speaker, you need to practice to make perfect, to memorize characters.
But not as a punishment. You mean as a practice? But yes, totally. Very good. Well, that's been very, very interesting. Now, so
So we need to wait for Sandy for a while.
I exited by mistake.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. No, we saw a question before that was, how do you say, how do I go to Beijing? So do you know how to say this, Melanie? How do I go to Beijing?
Oh, so we can say 我怎么去北京? So let's break it down. 我 I 怎么 how 去 to go plus destination 北京.
Very good. 我怎么去北京? Did you say it right? Were you okay? Did you? If not, you need to rewatch this episode to learn. But yes, how go to Beijing. Very good. What did we see on this podcast? In this episode we have learned how to use how, and also how to say the question, how do I write Chinese? How do I write this character? Melanie, how do I say, excuse me, how do I write this character?
We can say 请问这个字怎么写?
Very good. And how would you reply, I'm sorry, I can't write this character?
对不起，我不会写这个字。
Very good. Very interesting. Now we know how to say how. We can say how to go somewhere, or how to do this, or how to do that. Very good. Very, very important lesson. Next week, we will also learn something very, very interesting. We will talk about China, and if it's the best place to grow old. We'll see why, because I don't know, every place is different, but old people in China, they seem to be quite happy. We'll see why. And we will learn about the possessive de, and also the preposition 在. We know that 在 is a verb, but it can also be a preposition. And if someone wants to learn Chinese, what do they need to do, Melanie?
So everybody, don't forget to visit our website, hanyu-chineseschool.com, for a free trial class. And thanks for joining us today. See you next time.
See you all. Bye-bye.
再见。
再见。